looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
And welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayton May. You can find me on Twitter at JMay56. Joined as always by my co-host Quentin Crisco. And as fantasy season starts revving up, we have a very special guest for you tonight. Fantasy guru, one of the best followers on Twitter when it comes to fantasy, daily and redrafts and everything in between. It is Mr. Josh Larky. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell the people where they can find you, kind of what you do, what you specialize in, and what kind of content you kind of do throughout the season.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. It's been a few month podcast hiatus. I used to podcast daily, so it's been kind of interesting taking a step back. There's just a few other things I'm working on behind the scenes, but in terms of fantasy, I've kind of done everything at some point. I was a semi-professional DFS player at one stage. I have I'll probably have 5 figures worth of entry fees in a variety of high stakes redraft leagues this year. I used to do a couple betting shows, and yeah, so I think it's just kind of good to have a pretty well-rounded background because everything's kind of interconnected. If you're good at DFS, you're probably going to be better at betting. You're probably going to understand redraft better just over time. So much of our player takes, our strategy, the game theory kind of bleeds into itself. So I always tell people that if people are like, oh, like what's it going to take to start doing DFS, or I really want to get into prop betting, whatever it might be. And if you have that fantasy background, it always just becomes easier to start to dip your toes. And I don't know if I mentioned before, J Larky tweets for the Twitter. So easy way to
J
keep
Larky
up with
tweets.
anything I do.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, I started really following you last year, and especially for DFS stuff. I found a lot of success. I mean, you would throw out guys that you like, and I just kind of sprinkle them all together, and then do something with all the guys combined as well. But anything that I liked, I would add your guys in and kind of build my DFS lineups that way every week, and had a lot of success last season with it. So definitely worth the follow on X.com, the everything app. It's all happening on X. So definitely worth your time. But no, getting into it. So you do a 2025 fantasy football cheat sheet for redraft leagues every year, free on your Twitter. Anybody can go get that. So looking at this, what are some strategies, or maybe not necessarily strategy, but some guys you like targeting early, second, third round, and really building your board going forward?
Yeah, so I think this year is actually fairly straightforward in terms of how I'm viewing each position. So I'd say at quarterback, I really like those big 4. So that's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. I think if you're getting one of those guys in the 3rd or 4th round, that's pretty awesome. I think they're pretty stable, 22 to 26 fantasy point per game guys. I don't think there's anyone else that can really compete with them necessarily in terms of what they bring to varying degrees as rushers versus passers, where like as rushers, I'd say like Jaden Daniels might have the most dynamic skill set among the 4, and then like Allen and Hurts are more of the touchdown scorers on the ground. I'd say Lamar is kind of the highest upside touchdown guy. Allen's the best overall passer. Like they each kind of have something that they're bringing, and they're all kind of these like pretty clear-cut quarterbacks compared to everyone else. And I just think like what we saw from someone like a Joe Burrow or a Baker Mayfield, these guys have like these insane touchdown seasons, and they still don't quite compete with the fantasy upside of these big 4. So I think that position's really easy. Tight end, I don't have too many takes in terms of strategy. I think that's the flexible one. You can look at my cheat sheet and see some of the guys I'm targeting or
yeah, I see that you like Brock Bowers, you like Trey McBride, you even like Hawkinson in that 67 range. So
yeah, I think Hawkinson is the one that I've gotten some questions about in terms of why would I target him. And I think it's pretty straightforward to me. So TJ Hawkinson last year, he's coming back off the ACL tear. Of course, he's getting eased in. There's a lot of target competition there when he's showing up with Jefferson and Addison. And it's like, you know what? That's okay. He did like fine. But the 2 years before that, he had at least 85 catches, over 900 yards in 2022 and 2023. And I think we're not really thinking about that. I think people are like, oh, TJ Hawkinson, that's a boring thing. 85 catches, 900 yards is pretty exciting for a tight end. Addison misses the first 3 games due to suspension. Jefferson had that little hamstring injury that popped up. If he were to miss time during the season, I think Hawkinson could just be like a Bowers McBride type for those weeks. So I think in general, we should like tight ends with these young, inexperienced quarterbacks. And I think he's just going to get a ton of these layup, easy targets. So I like Hawkinson a lot. But in general, like I don't build my strategies around the tight ends. They score the fewest fantasy points. So it's more like I like those early quarterbacks. And then I think at running back, the first 2 rounds have a lot of really interesting guys. I start to get queasy about most of the middle round running backs. And then I'm always just pounding running back at the end of my drafts. I'll usually have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 running backs on my bench, depending on the league size.
Mm-hmm.
At receiver, I've been telling people round 3 through round 8, you can't really go wrong. There's just so many good receiver options there. So it's kind of like early, late running back, middle receiver, hopefully get one of those big 4 quarterbacks, and then wherever tight end fits in, it kind of fits in.
One question I've got for you with the quarterbacks that you mentioned, and it's like I found myself in the draft the other day thinking about this. It's like, do I want Jalen Hurts here or not? And I ended up passing on it because I know he misses a few games every year. And when I see on your spreadsheet, you say if you take a quarterback in the top 6 rounds, you don't need a QB2. What are your thoughts on that if a guy like Jalen Hurts goes down, as he has kind of in the past here and there?
I mean, I think last year was pretty unlucky. It definitely hurt my overall ROI when the Frankie Louvu hit concussed him right in the money week. It was like the first or second drive of the game. Right. I think that leaves a bad taste in our mouth. But I mean, he could have missed like week 6. Let's say that he missed week 6 last year. That was like the big game that he missed. I don't think we're really thinking about it too much. And to that end, I'd say like Lamar's actually missed some time here and there, and then was pretty healthy last year, but like has a history of missing time here and there. Daniels got nicked up a little bit, but overall was okay. And then I'd say like Allen's the pretty durable one, but even still, like these are guys where I'd say like in a bad injury year for a quarterback, they're still playing 12 to 14 games. And just compared to the other positions, it's just so much more stable. So like I wouldn't fault anyone if they're like, oh, I've got Jalen Hurts, let me grab one more quarterback late. In deep leagues, I think that's fine. But when you have like a 4 or 5 man bench, I don't think you should be saying, all right, I took a quarterback in the 4th round. Let's just carry a guy on my bench for his bye week or injury, when I could have these upside handcuff running backs, knowing the running back position is way higher of an injury risk on average than quarterback. So that's just why, like, if I have Hurts, unless it's like a 20 round draft, I'm not taking a second quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in that same draft, I ended up the whole time I was like, I'm gonna get Geno Smith for my QB2, and then by the end, I'm like, I like all these other players too much. I'm not getting a QB2.
So looking at your draft board here, what do you mean by target and fade when you're looking at some of these guys? Because you see guys like Christian McCaffrey as a target at 5, and then Justin Jefferson as a fade at 7. So does that mean you like Christian McCaffrey if you take him in that top 4, even though he's your 5th player? Like you don't hate the reach, and maybe on a guy like Justin Jefferson at 7. Does that mean if you can get Justin Jefferson later than 7, that's great, but you don't necessarily love him at that spot? Or are you just saying that Justin Jefferson's got a second-year QB who's unproven and 7's a little rich?
So I think for every target and fade, I could give you like individual player takes on all those guys. I'd say the general concept of the targets and fades is I do a ton of best ball drafts. I do a ton of managed league where it's full redraft, waivers, trades, everything. I do so many leagues. And my stance is I'm generally in 12-team leagues. Mm-hmm. Which players are going to be on more than 1 in 12 teams? That's a target. which players are going to be on less than 1 in 12 of my teams. That's going to be more of a fade. So it's
I
just
actually
based
like
on
that
like,
a lot.
I think that's just the best way to say it. Where like we could nitpick and we could be like, oh, like McCaffrey's a target at 5. Would you take him at 4? And I'd be like, well, probably not, because I don't want to have like too much McCaffrey. It's not like I want to have like 50% of a guy. Like there's other very intriguing high upside guys, like more stable injury wise than someone like a McCaffrey. So it's not like I want to be like, yeah, if I have a top 5 pick, we have to take McCaffrey no matter what. It's more like McCaffrey's often going at like pick 8. So like if I think he's probably like the 4th, 5th, or 6th best player on the board.
So it's more like
often.
More like an aggregate rather than a set in stone, is what you're kind of saying. Is like more often than not, I'll take Christian McCaffrey at 5.
Yeah, I think like a good example is I was in a high stakes draft last week, and I had a later round 1 pick, and I took Justin Jefferson. Not someone I've taken a ton, but late round 1, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And then in round 4, Tyreek Hill was there, and I've never seen Tyreek Hill slip to the 4th round in those drafts, and I took him. Neither of those are guys that I'm very interested in. It was the first time I took either one of them in a managed league this year, but everyone kind of has a price. So I try to put those targets and fades sort of like, this is where like I think they should generally be going. So Jefferson at 7, he's usually gone by pick 7.
Yes.
But that's why like it's more of a fade. And like you said, like he has a borderline rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy. We were joking pre-show. I was like, guys, I love Justin Jefferson. Who else would I rank as my 7th overall player at receiver when they're playing with a near rookie quarterback and there's a lot of target competition?
Yeah,
I just don't think he should be going at like pick 4.
He's right there with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. And if you look at those 3, you're like, if you're starting a football team, which one would you want? It's Justin Jefferson all day. But then you look at the upside and fantasy value, and you're like, well, I might like Neighbors or Thomas just a little bit better. Because even in college, I mean, we didn't see JJ McCarthy really air it out.
No, he's going to set like his career record for pass attempts this year by quite a bit.
Yeah. So kind of going through your draft board here again, it seems like 5th round you love receiver. So you have Travis Hunter, you have Calvin Ridley, George Pickens, Jalen Waddle, all in that 50 to 60 range in a 12-team league. That's going to be around your 5th round. So are you saying that's kind of the sweet spot if you go running back early?
Yes.
You kind of said earlier, like 4 through 8, just hammer receiver.
Yeah, I like a ton of these guys. I'd put Xavier Worthy, DK Metcalf in there. There's just a ton of guys that you can often see in the 5th round that I think are awesome. So if we just go through a couple of them that you mentioned, like Jalen Waddle, there's no more Jonnu Smith there. I know Jonnu Smith was annoying last year. Tyreek Hill's 31 years old. He's been struggling this offseason with injuries.
But they do have Darren Waller.
Yeah. Darren Waller's there. Like it just such a downgrade in terms of projection from what we saw last year from Jonnu to post divorce turned rapper Darren Waller. Yeah, it's just there's really not much there. It's pretty much in the passing game. It's like Waddle and Tyreek. Being 31. Tua's made a lot of comments about how he and Tyreek aren't on the same page. I think Waddle might just take over as the wide receiver 1 this year for them. He's 26. He's in his prime.
We've been waiting for that step from Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have been people who've been like predicting that the last 2 years, 3 years, that like Jalen Waddle might be the best receiver on the team now.
Yeah. He had nearly 1,400 yards like 2 years ago. So it's like or 3 years ago. So like he's done it. He's had a top 12 fantasy wide receiver finish already. And I think the situation's a little better for him now than it has been the last few years even. Like someone like George Pickens, I think he's really interesting because I think too many people just look at his box scores from the last 2 years and they're like, I don't think that's good enough. But let me reframe this. So 2023, he's in a Matt Canada offense. It's super stinky. He still has over 1,100 yards. Then he has a nearly identical yards per game last year with Arthur Smith. He's been well over 60 yards a game the past 2 years. We're going to have a major upgrade in pass volume expectations in Dallas. Quarterback play is elevated tremendously with Dak Prescott. I think there's 1,300 to 1,400 yard upside here with Pickens. And I think
agree
it's
with
mostly
you.
just like if he can stay healthy and not get in his own head, I don't know how this guy doesn't smash. There's nothing else there in the receiver room. It's just Lamb and Pickens. You're not double teaming Pickens. It would be
Can I-
Lamb if anything. So
can
I
I-
love like how different they are as receivers. Yeah, go for it.
Can I push back just a little bit?
Let's hear why
With
we
just
shouldn't love George
one,
Pickens.
with just one name, Brian Schottenheimer. Is that were you at all?
Let's look at the roster. One of the 3 or 4 worst
Well-versed.
running back rooms in the NFL. Like I do think they want to be a balanced offense, passing and running. I'll give you that. I actually think they want to be more balanced. I just don't think you can when the running back room's Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue.
Well, me and Quentin have been talking about this all summer. Their offensive line is built like they want to run the ball 40 times a game.
Yeah,
Their running
built
back
for
room,
duo all game long, like just pound it up the middle.
their running back room does not go with that theory. And then
Right.
Brian Schottenheimer is the quarterback or the OC.
Yeah, we just see like year after year, no matter who the running backs are, Dallas's offense has just been playing fast whenever Prescott's healthy. There's a lot of play volume there. There were a few years, like 4 years ago, I remember Prescott was like second or third in the NFL in pass attempts, even though they were actually a very, very balanced offense. And it's because they ran the most plays per game. They were routinely running plays with like 10 seconds left on the clock. So I think even if they're more balanced, there's just going to be so many more plays with Pickens running routes than he has the last 2 years that I think what we saw the last 2 years is kind of like his like 63, 65 yards a game is kind of like the floor if he's healthy.
Yeah. And I agree with that a lot. So I know on your sheet here, it's you have everybody listed out. So let's say somebody goes wide receiver, tight end, or wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, and they don't have any running backs, and we're sitting round 4 or 5 where you're talking about this is the sweet spot for receiver. Do we just keep hammering receiver and get running backs late, like you said, or are there some guys that maybe you feel comfortable and reach it on if maybe you don't have that RB1 come round 4 or 5?
That's a good question. I don't hate the running backs in this range. I think there's some interesting ones. I just think when I sequence it, I've liked my teams better when I'm taking more receivers in this range. I think RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson are very interesting.
Travion's been one of my favorite players for like 3 years now. I loved him at Ohio State.
They're both pretty fast. They're good at catching passes. Travion's situation, I don't really like. I think he's a much better player than Harvey, but I think he's in a bad situation where I'm just not quite sure what his role looks like. I think he's good enough that we don't have to worry too much. And then Harvey's just in the perfect spot. This awesome Broncos offensive line.
Just cut Estime.
They cut Estime. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is necessarily going to hold up to a large workload again. We've seen him as one of the most injured running backs throughout his career. Anytime there's a Sean Payton offense, we know there's going to be a 30%, 25% target share to the running back position. So I think Harvey, especially in PPR, is interesting. And then one more guy that's been very controversial that I really like is Isaiah Pacheco. And a lot of people go, he lost his job last year.
Andy Reid running backs.
So he quote unquote lost his job last year towards the end of the year. That's what people remember, but let's rewind. The first 2 weeks of last year, he was an absolute bell cow, getting 20 touches a game. Then he breaks his leg. People just assume he's not going to return that year. He somehow returns late in the year and into the playoffs. He does not look like his old self. He's time shared with Kareem Hunt. But this is an injury that running backs routinely take the full year to recover from. When you rush them back in a few months, it's not going to go well. We saw that with Tony Pollard. Remember his final year on the Cowboys? And people are like, oh my God, is Pollard's career almost over? He looks a little slow. And then he goes to the Titans last year and they're like, oh wow, like you give him a little more time off of his broken leg, suddenly things look a lot better. So I think with Pacheco, there's a chance this guy should have been going in the second round of drafts this year. Like if he's just the bell cow again, that's awesome. What else is in the running back room? Like 30-year-old Kareem Hunt? That's not a guy that I think we should generally be scared of.
Historically speaking, if you have RB1 in an Andy Reid system, you're going to be pretty all right.
Yeah, there's just not much there. Like I think Brashard Spitz is interesting, but this is like a day 3 rookie. And then
Converted
we have
receiver. Like he doesn't even know how to read the runs that well. Like there's a lot of work to be done. He's fast as sin, but like that's only so much of the equation, right?
yeah, I think the reason people like him is because of Isaiah Pacheco. They're like, oh, it's a late round pick with speed. And I'm like, yeah, but Pacheco's kind of the outlier here. Like we shouldn't just say like, oh, Brashard Smith's Pacheco. Pacheco is almost certainly better. I think we can all acknowledge that Pacheco has significantly outperformed his draft capital expectations. And then there's Elijah Mitchell. I have no idea what's going on with Mitchell. I was pretty interested in Mitchell for most of the preseason. Starting to back off.
Elijah Mitchell is a legend of fantasy the year he got drafted with CMC there and everything. He was next up for so long.
Yeah. So I think Pacheco might be a round 2 running back in terms of his overall output for you. And let's say that Pacheco is in a timeshare again, and it turns out it wasn't the broken leg. He just sucks now. Well, you wasted like a round 6 or 7 pick. That happens every single year. We are routinely burning round 6 and 7 picks. A lot of these receivers I like Travis Hunter's routinely in the 6th round. I think that's a guy that has top 12 fantasy upside. And I think Pacheco has that as well at the running back position. I think it's pretty rare to find a running back in that range with that upside. So he's one of those guys that's interesting. And then, there's a few other players I'm targeting on the cheat sheet, but I think Pacheco is one I feel pretty strongly about there.
I've got a question for you, Travis Hunter, because you brought him up. I was thinking about this the other day. Is it typical that a wide receiver that goes number 2 overall is drafted around this range, or does he feel lower than usual, than a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. was this time a year ago?
Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, he's definitely going a lot lower. I think it's because people are like, oh, how much defense is he going to play? But I mean, usually the question that we have with these rookies anyway is like, how quickly is he going to take over the targets in this offense? So I don't actually like it. We still have some questions with him, just like we do any of these rookies. I think what we should say is this is a guy that was awesome as a receiver in college. He was taken super early with the team primarily looking at him as a receiver. I think he will play some defense. That is fine. I think he's probably going to play at least 80% of the offensive snaps. I think they'd be pretty silly not to do that with him. And I like that Brian Thomas is there. These guys have very different skill sets. Some of the beat reporters are even saying that Hunter's been separating better in practice than Brian Thomas. I don't really know if I should believe that, but I just think the general concept is you don't see guys with this draft capital and that college production profile going this late in fantasy. He's got a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Like Lawrence is kind of a lock to give you around 4,000 passing yards a year. We now have Liam Cohen there, who looked awesome with the Buccaneers last year. So I think Hunter has just been a really easy click for me in round 6.
Yeah, I agree. I have one more question just about drafting, and then we can kind of dive deeper into specific guys. So let's say you don't get a big 4 quarterback that you mentioned. You don't get a Josh Allen. You don't get a Lamar Jackson. You don't get a Jalen Daniels. You don't get a Jalen Hurts. At what point are we going to get a guy? I know you got Joe Burrow at 59, Patrick Mahomes at 74, Bo Nix 86, Kyler Murray. To me, a lot of those guys are pretty similar. And then you have like Dak Prescott at 93. We talked about it earlier with that Dallas offense when he's healthy, what that offense can do. And there's just a lot of separation between these guys. So is it just Phil? Is it instinct? Is there someone you like the situation and you look at their ADP and be like, if I'm not getting one of those top 4 guys, I'm definitely targeting this guy? Or is it just strictly following the board?
So generally, if I'm not getting one of those early quarterbacks, I'll take 2 of them a little bit later. Usually what I found myself doing is pairing, we'll call him the young upside guy with the more reliable veteran. So the young upside guys would be like the Bo Nix, the Drake May, the Caleb Williams, these year 2 quarterbacks that I think are quite exciting. You can even put JJ McCarthy in there. He's got some mobility. We know that offensive infrastructure in Minnesota is really, really strong. So I think you could pair one of those guys with someone that's a little more stable, like the Baker Mayfield, the Dak Prescott, a Brock Purdy, where you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get some pretty decent passing yardage, some decent passing volume. The offense is good, but they don't necessarily have that like as exciting like oomph factor of like, oh, like he did this as a rookie. Like, what can he do in year 2? And then the one other wrinkle I'll throw in is I take a lot of Dak Prescott and Baker Mayfield when it's a 6-point pass touchdown league or when it's 20 yards for a fantasy point instead of 25 yards. So I've noticed that those guys' ADP is pretty much identical regardless of quarterback scoring. And when it's a 6-point pass touchdown or passing yardage is more favored, the big four are relatively hurt by that scoring system. Whereas like a Dak, a Baker, I put Purdy in there as well. Maybe even like a Caleb Williams. These guys are going to be a little bit more helped most likely by that scoring format. So I think that's just one more wrinkle to keep in mind.
Awesome, man. And then one last thing I'm seeing on here, and then we can get into some more specific guys that you really like targeting late. But you have Bill Merritt and Austin Eckler back to back in your rankings, and then Eckler as the target. So do you like Eckler in that system? Because I mean, Bill Merritt has shit. That dude's going like second round now after what we saw in preseason.
I'm not a film analyst. I will not ever claim to be a film analyst. I generally look at archetypes of players. The bad draft capital running back who doesn't have an awesome collegiate profile in terms of the stats he was putting up, who also is essentially a 0 in the passing game. This is not a guy that you generally are able to start in fantasy football. He could be the outlier. I think he has a higher chance to be an outlier than most other guys that look kind of like him based on what we've seen so far.
If I remember correctly, he had something funky in college, but I don't
think
know.
he had like 7 receptions over his last 2 college seasons. One of them was a full season.
But didn't he sit up for a year or something like that? Or am I thinking of the wrong guy? Do you know, Q?
Yeah, there was something weird with his eligibility at Arizona last year.
He didn't
so he
play
only
last
played
year.
like one game. I will say that one game I watched, he had a sick catch on a wheel route that just sticks in my mind. But like clearly the production over his entire career wasn't there, though. That's all I can think of when I think of him as a receiver, though.
Yeah, generally the 2 things that are super sticky statistically with these college running backs in terms of what translates to the NFL, if we're just ignoring draft capital, we'll just assume the higher they're drafted, the better we can project them. But it's total volume on the ground. So the guys that get a ton of touches on the ground, we can often expect a team will use them that way at some point in the NFL. And then the receiving role is also very, very predictive. And he's really lacking that receiving role. I don't know. He's probably going to be like Brian Robinson. I don't think we were all that excited about Brian Robinson in fantasy the last few years.
I was really excited about him last year. I was screaming at my TV excited for him.
So yeah, I think he's fine. Like I think if you're getting first or second place in your fantasy league, it is hard for me to see that he is one of the 2 running backs starting for you each week. I'll put it like that. Do I think that if you took him last month in an early fantasy draft to pick 150, do you feel great about yourself? Yes. Are you still going to start him week 1? Probably not. So that's kind of my stance. Whereas Eckler, he needs less to go right with his workload to be fantasy relevant because he's such a good pass catcher. And we've seen him do it before at the NFL level, handling a full workload. When Robinson was hurt last year, Eckler was pretty good in fantasy. And we could just see that again, where if anything happens to Merritt, suddenly Eckler, fantasy RB2. Every single week you start him. Whereas if Eckler goes down, I don't think they go, hey, 7th round rookie who never caught passes in college, you're suddenly on the field 75% of the time. I just don't see that happening.
Understandable. All right, so next we're gonna talk about some sleepers, some guys you love. And sleepers doesn't necessarily have to be those 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round picks. It could be somebody in the 5th round that you're targeting that's usually going 7th, maybe somebody in the 2nd round that you're like, I'm getting this guy no matter what. Like I know I'm picking 14th and he's not getting back to me. Like I want to go up and get him. It's kind of how I define sleepers for the most part, but who are some guys that you're when you're doing these drafts and everything, you're like, if I have an opportunity and it's not outrageous. I'm going and getting this guy.
I'd say Ricky Pearsall on most platforms is still, he just has kind of an egregious ADP. I just pull the trigger on him oftentimes in the 6th or 7th round.
Oh,
We'll take him a couple rounds ahead of ADP. He was shot a few weeks before the season started last year. That's really tough for a first round pick to recover from. He, in fact, recovered. He had a few big games towards the end of the year. There's really not that much target competition for him early in the season because Brandon Ayuk's hurt. Juwan Jennings has been nursing that calf injury. So the receiver room's pretty cleared out for him. He was a really, really good separator against man coverage last year. That's often a good indicator that a guy can be a team's wide receiver one. We know he's got the draft capital. It's a Kyle Shanahan offense. We should just like those receivers in general. So he's been one where I think we can still say that he's kind of a sleeper just with how late he goes. I'd say at running back, the like sneakiest sleeper where like I think you can start him literally week 1. The latest guy that I can think of would be Jaylen Warren. I think he's quite interesting. Better pass blocker.
You like him better than Caleb Johnson?
I mean, Caleb Johnson right now, it seems like he's pretty buried behind both Warren and Gainwell. I think he's going to hop over Gainwell pretty quickly. Warren, I'm not so sure. Caleb Johnson really struggles with pass protection. I think Aaron Rodgers, that's going to matter to him. I just have a hard time seeing Rodgers wanting a rookie running back out there a ton. And the receiver room stinks after DK Metcalf. And one thing that we see year after year with running back receptions is dependent on 2 things in season. One of them is just, can this running back catch passes? Obviously, we want them to be a good pass catcher. But then 2, is the actual receiver room pretty weak? Because when it is, that's really when you see crazy opportunity in the receiving game. We saw that with Christian McCaffrey a few years in Carolina, where you'd be like, oh, Cam Newton, mobile quarterback, he's not going to throw to running backs. And it's like, well, when they have no receivers, it turns out like a good running back gets all the volume. We saw that a few years
5 or 6 catches a game that are just dump offs.
Kamara's been that way. DeAndre Swift early in his career was pretty dependent on bad receiver rooms. If we think back to his early Lions days, it was like Quintez Cephas and like they had a lot of weird Tyrell Williams. They had a lot of weird guys starting. So I think that's really in Warren's favor, is that there's not much else after DK Metcalf. So I think he's kind of like that super, super sneaky sleeper where like you're going 0 RB or hero RB and you're like, oh my God, it's the 9th round or 8th round, whatever it is. I don't have my RB2. I think he's a guy that you can actually start just right off the bat. And then
so I officially thought I was off the Jaylen Warren train this year, and you just convinced me to hop right back on that train because I
was about to say the same thing.
That guy.
Yeah, we loved Warren last year. Remember Jaylen Warren? It was like, if anything happens to Najee Harris, top 3, top 5 handcuff. And now he's suddenly like the boring pick. He's not great anywhere, but he's good everywhere. And I think that'll matter with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is going to.
And we have to remember it's Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I just think that Warren is kind of like this safe pick who also still has a little bit of upside going on. And I'd be comfortable starting him week 1. I have a few teams actually where I went hero or 0 RB, and I'm like, Jaylen Warren, welcome to the week 1 lineup. I don't actually hate this. I think we could get 12 to 15 fantasy points early on in the season from him.
Absolutely. All right. So looking late in the draft. If you're in a 12-team league, you're in a 10-team league, all those rookies sitting there, not 10th, 11th round. Let's talk about some like casual leagues. You're with your coworkers, your family, people that probably don't really study hard, that are following the ESPN board, the sleeper board, the NFL boards. What are some guys that are probably going past like 140 on those just normal sets that you can stash on your bench that you feel really, really good about? I see on your sheet you like Will Shipley, you like Woody Marks, Damian Pierce. Is there anybody that you're like, if you're in a league, a casual league, a work league, a family league, maybe it's $20 a pop, more for bragging rights, that you're like, absolutely go get this guy late?
I'd say with running backs, I try to mix it up. I have a ton of running back targets late. I draft a lot of running backs late. in general. So like, I like Shipley, but I wouldn't tell someone in a home league, like, this is the guy that you need. You have to draft him. He's going to hit because
No,
like, unless Saquon gets hurt, you
he's
will
nothing.
never start Will Shipley. I think the case for Will Shipley is we love the offensive environment in Philadelphia, and Saquon had 482 touches in the regular season and playoffs last year. That's borderline historic. He has a history of lower body injuries. So I think there's just a lot of reasons to like Will Shipley as like a high percentage bet among the handcuffs. But I don't like to tell people like this is the late round running back you have to take. So I think like Shipley's a good one. Blake Corum, a good post hype guy where everyone wanted him last year and he's still the direct backup to Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams
Always
is
will
1
be.
year older with 350 more touches on his resume, and Corum's free.
Rams fans hate me for my Blake Corum take.
Are you pro Corum or?
No. So whenever they drafted Blake Corum, I just said I didn't like the pick because of the running backs they had in the room. And Rams fans acted like I pissed in their Cheerios.
You got a lot of hate for saying I don't think Blake Corum's going to get touches last year.
Yeah, I was like, why would you give Blake Corum the ball when you have Kyron Williams? Was basically my take. And they're like, you're an idiot. You got no touches last year.
Yeah, McVay, when he likes a running back, he likes him. And he likes to give one guy all the touches. I think that's the case for Corum in fantasy is if Kyron goes down and Corum's healthy, he's probably getting a lot of touches. Yeah. I think the Texans running backs are really interesting. I do think that's someone where I'd say like leave your draft.
So Joe Mixon is on the pup list, or did they put him on IR today?
He's missing at least the first 4 games with pup. What I tell people is like if possible, I like to have one of Woody Marks or Dameon Pierce. I don't even know if Mixon ever plays football again. I've seen a lot of injury experts talking about how this is now like a 6 to 8 month recovery for a foot or ankle injury. And there's not really any news about it getting any better. He's not practicing at all. He's much older. I think Dameon Pierce is the well-rounded skill set in this backfield. Woody Marks, they took in round 4, but they gave up next year's 3rd round pick to trade up and get him. He had more than 45 catches in 4 different college seasons. Houston offensive line's terrible. I think that could be really good for PPR leagues. My Texans backfield take is, at least right now with this uncertainty, I'm going to bet against Mixon and his foot injury. And then I'm going to bet against Nick Chubb. He's nearly 30 years old, back-to-back traumatic season-ending injuries. He doesn't catch passes. I just don't think we want the grinder back behind that bad O-line. So I think that's one where, like, again, I wouldn't say like take Marks or take Pierce. I'd say mix those guys both in. So I think those are 2 interesting ones. Bashal Tutin on the Jaguars. He's a guy that in very casual leagues is going to go really, really late. 4.3 speed, 50 catches his final 2 college seasons. He had over 1,000 rushing yards last year and 17 touchdowns. We talked about how the Jaguars offense could take a step forward with Liam Cohen now in the saddle. Etienne and Bigsby have both generated a little bit of trade buzz. He's an interesting one. And then at receiver, there's Luther Burden, the rookie on Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Early round 2 draft capital. The Ben Johnson slot receiver is just fantasy gold. That could be Luther Burden, just getting those layup targets in the slot. He's really good after the catch. And then one more guy, I could see, I don't know if he's necessarily going well after 140 in casual leagues, but people ask me all the time what I do in the late rounds, and I'm like, I just pound running back. And they're like, okay, well, what if I need a receiver? Luther Burden, you're not going to start him week 1. I don't think anyone wants to start Luther Burden week 1. If you want a super late receiver you can start week 1, I would say it's Keenan Allen. He quietly had 8 targets a game last year with Chicago. His catch rate was abysmal. It was 58% last year. I think that held back what he actually could have done if he was in a better offensive environment than Chicago. I think Keenan Allen's a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 in fantasy with the Chargers. And if anything happens to Ladd McConkey, I think Keenan Allen is a top 15 fantasy option. Does not mean I still think Keenan Allen is one of the 15 best receivers in the league. I think he would get peppered with targets. He and Herbert have great rapport. Ladd McConkey dealt with a lot of injuries throughout college before he had a really healthy rookie season. I think Keenan Allen is the sneakiest guy in PPR leagues where if I don't think I have enough receiver firepower or if I've taken a lot of those like upside swings where I'm like, oh, we've got a lot of rookies. We've got Ricky Pearsall, like some of the guys that are just a little bit less crystal clear what their week one role is. I have no issues grabbing Keenan Allen late. So I think that's a good one for the people who feel like for some reason they got locked out of a lot of receivers early. I think he's a guy that in PPR leagues you can really just get by with, starting him for most, if not all, of this season.
I might be the only Bears fan who will tell you this. I think there's still juice in Keenan Allen. I mean, I'm with you. He was playing outside receiver and running deep routes a bunch in the Bears offense last year. That's not his game. He's back on the team with the quarterback that has a ton of rapport with, as you said. I think there's something there for him. I'm not going to target him early, but like he's free money right now. Like I see him and Justin Herbert being they're just getting back to business, right? Getting the friends back in town, boys are back in town. Let's go.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of film people I trust. They also were like, Keenan Allen was not the problem last year. I mean, the guy had 8 targets a game last year. If his catch rate was just his career average last year, he was on pace for over 90 catches in a full season. And I don't think people realize that. They just look and they're like, oh, he only had a little over 700 yards. It's like you said, they're putting him on the outside. He's running weird routes. He's still getting open. He was still productive. He was still having a similar amount of targets per game to DJ Moore for the most part, who I think people think of as so differently right now than Keenan Allen. So, yeah, I think he's got almost no target competition. It's just Ladd McConkey. We like Justin Herbert, and he has that rapport where it's the rare, like, veteran receiver late career where we don't have to worry about, like, how he's integrated into the team. We kind of know what to expect, and he has that familiarity.
I understand. Well, that's it for me. You have anything, Q?
Yeah, I got one question here before we let you go because I know you got to get running here soon, Josh. But my question is just about how do you weigh chasing upside with a player like maybe like a Jameson Williams versus like an old reliable player like a Mike Evans when you're looking at like wide receivers or running backs? I just have the wide receiver example on the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I get questions like that a lot in terms of like, how do we weight that? And I think I have a different approach than most people. I don't worry too much. So I'll have player takes occasionally. Like people that use my cheat sheet are probably not going to draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's the highest ADP receiver that I don't see as able to finish as wide receiver 1 overall. Very, very crowded offense. They lost their superstar offensive coordinator. He had an outlier touchdown rate last year, and he was still a lot of points per game behind in terms of fantasy wide receiver 1 overall. So someone like that, I'd be like, not quite enough upside, but generally, outside of a couple weird edge cases, I don't care. I think as long as you're sort of following ADP, it works out. The earlier round picks have upside and reliability. The guys later in your draft are going to either have reliability or upside. And I think naturally when you're drafting, you're almost certainly going to have that mix. The only time that I'd say that I'm not worrying about reliability is at the end of the draft. That's why I just say you pound running backs at the end of the draft. Guys where one injury happens, and next thing you know, this is a fantasy RB1, fantasy RB2. But in general, I'm really just like not super worried about that. I just go, you know what? If you're sticking to ADP, it's not like you're drafting like 6 guys in rounds 1 through 6 and you go, oh my God, I have the most boring roster, or like, wow, this is incredible. Like I've got like the most upside everything. It's just, I don't know. I stick to ADP for the most part. I'm not reaching more than like a half a round early in the draft, and it generally works itself out.
Okay, good deal. Probably overthinking it.
Yeah. No, we appreciate all the insight, man, and we're excited. We're excited to get into some fantasy this year, some DFS. Also, if you wanna see all Josh's stuff, it's Larky Tweets on X.com, on Twitter. He's got his cheat sheet on there. He's got everything you need, absolutely free for everybody. So check him out. Follow him during the season. Does DFS every Sunday. One of my favorite follows on Twitter. So we really appreciate you coming on, and can't thank you enough for sharing some knowledge with us and helping us out as we get into fantasy season.
Yeah. JQ, thanks you guys.
Yeah. Have a good night, Josh.
Have a good night. All right. So did you have anything you wanted to add, or are we just ready to get into some fantasy?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely ready to get into some fantasy, but Jay, we have some football this weekend.
Do have some football. We have some college football. We have some NFL football. What, a week from now?
Yeah.
A week and 2 days from now, we have Cowboys Eagles. The day after, we have Chiefs Packers, maybe?
No, it's not Packers. It's
Broncos?
Chargers.
Yeah, we're really close. Hell of a weekend for college football. Probably the best week one for college football that we've had in a decade plus.
I don't know. There was a really good one back in I want to say 2018, maybe 2019. I think it was 2019. Like that week one was insane. But that doesn't matter. It's an outstanding week one for college football this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hammering Ohio State this weekend. That's all I know. That's the only thing on my mind is Ohio State beating Texas.
So you texted me that the other day, and I was all with you. And then you texted me last night about this Portnoy thing. Now I'm scared. Now I'm like, this is the type of thing where Ohio State does this, and then they lose to Texas, and they look like even bigger idiots because of it.
Yes, but I don't know. I look at this Ohio State roster. I think Texas may be a tad overrated. I think both of these teams are top 5 teams. And I think Vegas got it right at the beginning. I think Texas or Ohio State minus 3.5 was about the correct line. It's at Ohio State. That sounds about right. And the public has completely shifted in this game. Texas is probably going to be favored by the time we come to Saturday. Texas should not be favored going in to the Horseshoe. And I'm hammering Ohio State.
All right, Jay, you watched K-State, Iowa State last week, right?
I did. Farmageddon should never happen in Ireland.
Should Iowa State be 14.5-point favorites against anyone right now?
Rocco Beck looked good.
Did he? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know they're coming back from Ireland on that has to impact something.
Who are they playing?
South Dakota.
I like South Dakota in that game.
Plus 14.5.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where my head was at. So
let me be right back. I gotta go check. My kid is sick. Let me be right back.
Okay. Well, folks, you got me with college football. Another line that that I'm looking at here is I just had it and I lost it. LSU Clemson, that's going to be a big game. LSU is 3.5-point dogs in that at Clemson. 2 top 10 teams based on early stuff I've seen just about, I think that we've all seen about LSU. There's stuff coming out about they might be a little overrated right now. They might not be the team that everyone thinks they're going to be. This comes down to how much you trust Brian Kelly, in my opinion. I kind of don't trust Brian Kelly, so I might be considering that Clemson minus 3.5. But my big question there is, can Cade Klubnik be the guy he's supposed to be, right? Like Cade Klubnik, we've been hearing for the last 2 years how good this guy can be. And I feel like he hasn't really come into that. He hasn't really taken that step. So that'll be interesting to see if he can take that step against LSU this week at home. Gives him a better chance of doing it. I think I might be on Clemson minus 3.5 in that game. I'm interested in that. And then let's see, Texas A&M 24.5-point home favorites against UTSA. I mean, I'm always down to take Texas A&M as a 20-something point to fade Texas A&M when they're a 20-something point favorite. So I'll be on UTSA plus 24.5 in that game.
I'm on UTSA money line for that game.
Ooh, money line.
I think UTSA I think the line should be closer to about 14.5. I mean, so I think there's a big discrepancy in spread there. I think they're getting a little cheated from last season. They had some injuries. I still love their coach. I love what they're bringing in. I don't necessarily think they're going to go in there and win, but when I think there's a 10-point discrepancy in what the spread should be, I'm going to sprinkle that money line.
Okay. Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Florida State last year. You're big fade. Big fade on Florida State. You were very, very right. This year, they still got a lot of talent. Are they still fade worthy, or against number 8 Alabama?
I like them versus
Florida
Alabama.
State.
That's
what I'm thinking.
I'm taking Florida State money line in that game.
Whew.
I think it's a big spot for them. They got embarrassed last year. They're a premier program in college football. Last year, they lost a lot of games.
In a brutal fashion.
I laughed at them. But I like their coach. I think they get back on track. I definitely like them to cover this game. Alabama might be the best defense in the nation this year if it's not Ohio State. But I think if you can score in Alabama, I don't love that Alabama offense, and Florida's always got a lot of speed. I think if they can get rhythm early, they can get Alabama on their heels, and I think that's a game they could win.
Side note with Alabama, I was watching some Caden Proctor tape the other day. I don't get it. I don't see why he's a top 5 prospect for this year's draft or whatever it is. I see how big he is. I see that a big guy shouldn't be able to move as well as he does, but it's still slow.
Yeah. So I haven't really watched Alabama closely, but I know a lot of people are talking about Alabama as being the sneaky team, which it's weird talking in 2025 talking about Alabama being sneaky because you get the Ohio States, you get the Georgias, you get the Texas, Clemson. I don't know. I'm big on Clemson this year. Penn State, not as big on, but still like Penn State a lot.
When you went away, I was talking about Clemson. I like Clemson -3.5 at home against who was it?
LSU.
Against LSU, yeah.
I love LSU this year, and I still like Clemson in that game. I like Clemson to win the national championship this year.
Think Cade Klubnik takes the step?
I think Cade Klubnik is QB1 in the draft next year. I think he is the best. He's not coming out.
Okay. We have to clarify because right now people are talking about Arch in the draft class. So
even if
Cade Klubnik ahead of him, or is Arch out of the?
I would take Cade Klubnik ahead of him anyway. Arch Manning has started 3 games in college football. He's not a very good passer. He's good at running the ball. He has a long way to go. Historically, Manning stay all 4 years in college. They'll stay through their senior year. I don't think he's coming out. Even if he was coming out, I don't know if I would take him top 3 next year. He could go out there and light it up this season, obviously. It'll be year 3 or year 2 under the Sarkisian offense. So, maybe. But
will he look good in the Sarkisian offense? Because no one ever really has, in my opinion.
I think he's elevated. He's never elevated an elite talent, but he has elevated lesser talent.
Oh, yeah. Stetson Bennett, he elevated Stetson Bennett without a doubt, but that offense was as Mickey Mouse as it gets.
Yeah, he's never had the elite guy that he was I'd turn an elite guy into a legend. He's never done that. He
get that.
He has turned mediocre guys into legends. Stetson Bennett. 2-time national champion. What else can you say about the guy? So we'll see. I think Arch stays. I don't think there's any question that Arch stays.
I do too.
But even if he doesn't stay, I still like Klubnik better than him. I probably like Nessmeyer better than him. I probably like Allard better than him. And that's not including – we're going to see probably 2 or 3 guys rise up throughout this season. I think it's going to be a very QB-heavy year. We're going to see some guys rise up that maybe nobody's talking about. And we already have a big 4. So it's going to be a huge year for QB in college football.
Yeah, big year for Drew Aller. Big year.
Yeah. So, I'm super excited.
I'm looking at a line here. Albany at Iowa. Iowa are 38.5-point favorites with a total of 50.5.
I think they finally fired their offensive coordinator, which was the head coach's son.
Iowa did?
Yes. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, I don't either, but I just got a 50.5 total at Iowa just feels like a sin to me.
Yeah, but Albany, like, can we score 50.5 against Albany?
So
like
if
you and I?
If Iowa's up 30-0, do we think they're really not just going to play ball control? Or do we think their ball control will get them to 50?
I think Iowa, historically speaking, if they can score 50 on somebody, they're going to be like. So at the end of the year, when they've scored 12 points, 14 points all throughout the conference year, then they had a couple of anomalies where they scored 50. Like, look, we averaged 27 points a season. I don't know what more you want from us. When really, if you take out those games, they average like 14 points a game.
Yeah, I guess so. I want to look it up here. I want to look up how many times Iowa's gone over 50 the last few years.
3 years ago, they had a really good, or was it 4 years ago, they had a really good offense. I mean, they always talk about Kirk Ferentz not having great offenses. They lit it up for a couple of years, but here recently, it's been stagnant as fuck.
Yeah, I want to see what this number comes in at. Let's do it at Iowa. Oh no, I don't want opponent Iowa. I want team Iowa.
All right, so going through some games while he's talking right now. Nebraska Cincinnati is snaky, a really fun game. Nebraska 7-point favorites in that game. That's a game Cincinnati can get up for. Cincinnati's at home. Nebraska's a team that's been talked about all offseason as a team that's going to take that next step. They could very easily go into Cincinnati and lose that game week 1. And it's on a Friday night, I believe. No, Thursday night. So that's a Thursday night game that Nebraska's unranked, but they're kind of the team on the outside looking in that everybody's like, this could be the year for Nebraska. And it is so fitting that they go into Cincinnati and just get beat.
So since 2020 or 2019, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games where Iowa's total has gone over 50. Against Troy, Michigan State, Washington, Illinois, Northwestern, Miami, Ohio, Wisconsin. It doesn't matter. All the different.
So they haven't done it.
It has happened,
but they haven't done it against Cupcakes.
There was 1 or 2 cupcakes in there that I hadn't gotten to yet, but yeah.
So, I was gonna say if they're not doing it against
because they're not allowing points against Cupcakes. Their defense is always too good for that.
They don't allow points against anybody really. So
that was at Iowa where that like 9 times in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I mean that might be an under to look at. Iowa unders. I'm never going to talk to anybody.
I'm big on the unders.
I'm never going to talk to anybody out of an Iowa under. All right, so let's look at some of these other big games here. I don't know. You talked about Texas A&M, UTSA. You talked about Clemson, LSU. What about Arkansas Pine Bluff going down to Lubbock? You think the Pine Bluff Arkansas can get it done?
No. What are we looking at in that game?
100 burger.
No, I mean like spread wise.
47.5, I believe.
On the total?
No, spread.
I like them Red Raiders, brother.
one of my coworkers has his father coaches on Arkansas Pine Bluff, and we called him yesterday and said, or he used to coach. Never mind, he used to coach there. Now he's just a professor, and he said 47.5 points. He goes, "I'll take Arkansas. You give me 47.5. I like our odds." And I'm like, that. If the homer is taking 47.5, I'll take 47.5 on my side. We'll kill him.
Truly, as a Texas Tech fan, I hope they don't cover. I hope it's kind of scary close because Joey's teams have a tendency to I don't want to say get a little full of themselves, but like to just let down
Don't give me an Abilene Christian from last year.
I want to see him get a little bit of a disappointment, just so that they know that they still have work to do.
These last 3 years, these early games, these Abilene Christians, these Wyomings, they have absolutely ruined my life.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. I just want to see us kill somebody one time, and then we can move on. Next week we can have a close game.
Okay, how about Michigan going to Norman, Oklahoma, take on the Sooners?
Is that week 1?
Yep. Or wait, is it
missed that.
September 6th? Oh no, it's not. I accidentally moved into week 2 somehow.
I was like, oh my god, how did I miss that?
One of the only good games of week 2.
I like OU there. Yeah, no, that's a game we'll watch together.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Let's see. We have LSU, Clemson. There is Notre Dame, Miami. I love Notre Dame. Notre Dame's my third team. I love Clemson. I love Ohio State, and I love Notre Dame this year.
-2.5. I like Notre Dame there. I
Yeah.
mean, I know Miami's kind of rebuilt their program back up some, and it's in Miami, and there's a lot of bad blood between these programs historically. But I just think so highly of Marcus Freeman.
I think
if
Marcus
Cam
Freeman
Ward
might
was
be-
there, I'd think a little differently, because I think that he
Carson
had
Beck.
so much experience. It's Carson Beck, exactly. I mean, I think Marcus Freeman's going to put Carson Beck in the torture chamber.
Another game a lot of people are looking at. A lot of people like Virginia Tech going into the season. A lot of people like South Carolina going into this game. Line South Carolina -8. Total is 52.5. I'm not big on Lenora Sellers. I mean, I know that's like a sin to say in 2025. Everybody loves Lenora Sellers. Everybody's saying he's the next Cam Newton. I don't buy it. I do think South Carolina might be better than Virginia Tech. I think 8-point spread is crazy. I might like Virginia Tech in that game, and I might like the under, because I don't see a world where this is like a high scoring game if Lenora Sellers isn't good, and it's a safe space here, right? I don't think Lenora Sellers is that good.
I haven't watched any of them yet, really, but I think that he has a lot of projection.
Right. He wears the rec specs, and everybody's like, "Oh, dude, this guy is awesome. He's fine."
I will say, I'm interested in the over in this one. Just knowing that Lenore Sellers is the explosive football player he is.
Well, that's why I'm saying I like the under, because I don't think he's going to explode.
I don't know. I mean, they put up 35 in Oklahoma last year, 44 on A&M, 28 on Vandy.
South Carolina lost everybody. Mizzou. South Carolina lost everybody. They're an empty team. I mean, you hope that you restock. I mean, that's the goal. That's the goal of every football team.
Did they
immediately restock?
They only lost 4 games last year.
No, I'm talking about players.
Oh, okay. Okay, who'd they lose?
All sorts of people, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't have the sheet in front of me.
I know they lost Rocket Sanders, I think it was. Their running back.
Rocket.
Yeah. They didn't Rocket Sanders. They lost him, but even he only had 300 receiving, or no, he had 1,200 scrimmage yards. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't lose that much. I mean, if they lost guys, they didn't do a lot of damage. Those guys, at least on offense, they lost Nick Emmanwari. I know that's right, and Demetrius. They lost a lot on defense. T.J. Sanders, Demetrius Wright, Nick Emmanwari, the Kyle Kennard. Those are Tonka. They lost a ton on defense.
They have arguably the best player in defense this year, right?
Do they?
It's him, the Parker kid from Clemson, and the kid from Ohio State are the top 3 defensive guys, aren't they?
I don't know. You know better than I do, honestly.
I
just know last year's draft. I'm looking at 5 draft picks that they lost.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was expecting to go into this episode as fantasy, so I didn't have all my college stuff pulled up. But Yeah, let's do a little parlay real quick. 5-gamer, five teamer for the boys,
5-teamer.
and then we'll let y'all go.
Okay.
5-team parlay, guaranteed to be a 5-team parlay.
Guaranteed to make you money if it hits.
Guaranteed that these 5 legs will be combined into a 5-leg parlay.
It's a guaranteed parlay, folks.
It's a guaranteed parlay. All right, so let's get it started. Let me scroll through, see if anything. I don't want a Friday game. I don't want a Thursday game.
You got to open it with OSU, right?
OSU, Texas. Let's take Ohio State minus 2.5.
Okay. Are you writing these down?
I can. Ohio State minus 2.5. I don't have a parlay tracker. Do you? You put them into the bets. I'll put them in here. Let's see. Penn State, Nevada, Georgia, Marshall, Alabama, Florida State. Let's take Florida State at home plus 13.5.
Okay.
FSU plus 13.5. Okay. Let's take LSU, Clemson. Let's take the over in that game, 57.5.
I like
2 of the
that.
best quarterbacks in the nation.
I like that a lot.
Night game. So LSU, Clemson, over
57.5.
57.5. All right. Let's do
UTSA?
Yeah. Where's that game?
UTSA plus 24.5.
Let's do UTSA plus 24.5 versus Texas A&M.
We need one more leg.
I think we end it on Sunday.
Notre Dame
We take Notre Dame
minus 2.5.
minus 2.5. Or you can throw Notre Dame money line on there if you want.
That is a plus 2,416. Bet.
Plus 2,400, 24-1. I like that a lot.
Look it.
We have an underdog. We have a favorite. We have an over. We have an underdog
And a favorite.
Good
mix.
That's week 1.
That's the guaranteed parlay.
That's week 1 for you. That's guaranteed to be a parlay if you put them all together and bet them together.
Guaranteed to make you money if it wins.
If it wins, it will make you $24 for every $1 that you bet.
Boom.
Don't get no better than that, folks.
All right. Does that wrap it for us, Jay?
I think that wraps it for us. We're not sleeping on them Raiders.
We are not sleeping on the Raiders.
Not sleeping on the Raiders. Again, shout out Josh Larky, one of the best follows on Twitter.com, the X, the everything app.
If you're watching on YouTube, his information's down in the info. So make sure to go give him a follow.
Again, shout out to him. It's fantasy season. I have 5 drafts this weekend. 2 of them are not my own. I draft for other people. So if you're watching this being like, oh, does he draft for so-and-so in my league? I probably do.
You know what? One of my upcoming drafts, I might just set the queue on Josh's sheet and let it go.
Yeah, would love to see it. All right. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that wraps it.
All right. Hey, next time we talk. Well, not next time we talk, but next time we talk will be in person and football will have been played.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right. Thank you all so much. Like and subscribe. Let us know who you're targeting in fantasy this year if you've made it this far. Follow Josh Larky. Follow JMay56. Follow Bucket Stats. Don't sleep on the Raiders. And it's football time.
Adios.
Adios.
And when you knock us down, on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.